Welcome to my channel, Tales of Courage. Today I am going to tell you a story that will touch your heart and feels like what true respect means. This is not only the story about war and rank, this story is about bravery. This story begins on a wind-cut morning at Camp Harrow, a training base known for breaking arrogance out of men. But on that morning, arrogance was thriving. Private Liana Ward arrived with a duffel slung over one shoulder and a posture so controlled it bordered on silence. She was small, reserved, eyes steady with a calm that unsettled those who noticed. But what drew attention weren't her eyes. It was the network of scars trailing down her right arm, branching like pale lightning beneath the uniform sleeve. No one knew how she'd gotten them. She didn't offer explanations. And in a place where mystery was weakness, whispers blossomed quickly. The ringleader was Sergeant Brock Laird, a man who built his reputation on volume rather than virtue. He mocked recruits the way others breathed, incessantly, instinctively. So when he saw Liana's scars during a routine inspection, his grin formed instantly. "Private Ward," he announced loud enough for the platoon to hear, "looks like you already lost whatever fight you were in." A ripple of laughter followed. Liana stood unmoved. To Laird, that stillness looked like defiance. To the watching recruits, it looked like danger, the kind that hides in quiet places. But the mockery didn't stop. It spread. And soon enough, the entire platoon viewed her scars as a punchline rather than a past. What none of them understood was that every scar on her skin carried a story, and one man on base already knew the truth behind them. It happened during a combat reaction drill, a chaotic simulation where recruits sprinted through smoke, alarms, and shouted commands. Laird saw his chance. As Liana rounded a barrier, he stepped into her path, barking, "Show us those scarred heroics, Ward!" She tried to move past him. He grabbed her arm. That was his mistake. In a single motion, clean, fluid, instantaneous, Liana pivoted, trapped his wrist, and dropped him to the ground with a sharp, echoing crack. The kind that freezes oxygen, the kind that silences crowds. Laird didn't move. The platoon didn't breathe. Liana released him and stepped back, expression unchanged. For 3 full seconds, the world held still around her. Then came the quiet gasps, the whispers, the realization that the smallest recruit had just dismantled the loudest man with a speed none of them even saw. And someone else had seen it too. Within minutes, the drill halted. Medics rushed in. Recruits stared at Liana with a mixture of fear and awe. But the real shift came when a black sedan pulled up beside the training field, a vehicle none of them recognized until the door opened. Major General Elias Rourke stepped out. He was known throughout the Corps as a man who forgot nothing and forgave little. His presence alone made officers stand straighter. But when his eyes fell on Liana Ward, something unusual happened. He froze, not with confusion, with recognition. He walked toward her with deliberate steps. The entire platoon watched, bracing for destruction. "Private Ward," Rourke said quietly, "may I see your right arm?" Liana hesitated only a moment before rolling up her sleeve. The scars caught the light, raised, jagged, unmistakable. Rourke inhaled slowly. To the recruits, the scars looked like accidents, perhaps old wounds. But to him, they were signatures, patterns he had seen only once before, years earlier, in a classified rescue operation where a civilian girl pulled 3 Marines from a burning convoy by sheer force of will. She was 15. Everyone thought she died in the fire, but she didn't. She had simply disappeared.
Now she stood before him in uniform. Rourke turned to the platoon, his expression sharpened by memory. "These scars," he said, voice carrying across the field, "were not earned in weakness. They were earned saving lives when she had no obligation to." Silence spread, heavy and ashamed. He looked directly at Sergeant Laird, still on the ground, wincing. "And you dared to mock what you could never endure." The words hit harder than any strike. Then Rourke faced Liana again. "Strength isn't loud, Private. It's proven." She nodded, and the recruits understood. They had mistaken quiet for frailty, scars for shame, and humility for fear. They had been wrong about all of it.
In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Recruits who once mocked her now watched her every movement, studying her precision, her calm, her discipline. Laird was reassigned during recovery. Rumor said Rourke had personally ensured it. No one laughed at Liana's scars again. No one dared. But what truly endured was the story. Each year, as new recruits arrived, someone would whisper about the small, silent Marine who brought a sergeant to the ground in one motion. Others swore the general himself had paused, not just in shock, but in respect for the scars she carried like banners of survival. Her story drifted through barracks, across bases, eventually reaching units she had never met. It grew, not through embellishment, but through reverence. Because every generation of Marines needs a reminder. The loudest aren't always the strongest. The scarred aren't always the broken. And humility is not the opposite of power. It is its final refinement. Liana Ward rose through the ranks quietly, just as she had lived. She never spoke of the day the general froze, nor the day the platoon learned its hardest lesson. But when a young recruit once asked her how she endured the mockery, she answered with the single line that would outlive her entire record. "Scars do not show where we fell. They show where we refused to."